Uno.
Fernando.
Yay. Oh, you know what? Hang on, I have to take a sip first. Hang on. For luck, considering the Irish woman with us.
Do not be cursed.
Yeah, I think we missed Cinco
With
de Mayo on
thirst.
this podcast and did nothing in Spanish, which I feel really bad about because I like Cinco de Mayo and I love Taco Tuesday, which those two things were on the same day this year.
They were.
Yeah, but it's 2020. So
Yeah, true. Yeah, you know
I'm
what?
pretty
Nothing
sure that
counts.
I ate pasta and sausage, like Italian food, on Cinco de Mayo.
Oh,
Blasphemy.
we
I
need a
know.
do-over on this whole year. Okay, well, welcome guys to Beyond the Basement,
My
the
fault.
complete Attack on Titan podcast, episode 34, also known as season 2, episode 9, opening. We're actually still not totally sure what the title has to do with, but I'm
They
one
had
of your
an
hosts. They
open
call me
dialogue?
Eric. They call this guy. What do they call this guy?
What do they call me?
Not late for dinner.
Hey, you,
Okay, and they call this woman
Miss Rachel.
Miss Rachel. They literally do. She is.
And sometimes I say I hate my name when that happens. 'Cause they say it 15 times.
Miss
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
So many times. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. Actually, before we recap, I'm also going to say this. First of all, I want to say thank you for everybody. We just had a accidental week off. I posted like a little short version of the podcast just to let everybody know what was going on. So chaos reigns in 2020 as per usual.
Mhm.
So last week we had a mixture of accidents. Pete's tooth took a turn for the worst.
Mhm.
And your wisdom teeth. Surprised you still have those.
Yeah,
That's why Pete's so wise. He's a wise guy.
When I was like 15, I was like in extreme pain, or 16 or whatever. Whenever your wisdom teeth come in, I was like, oh gosh, it's terrible.
Usually when you're 20, but okay.
What was that?
20.
Usually in your
18
20s.
to 20. He's usually,
Oh.
mine came when I was 16 too. So
Yeah.
mine were super early.
You guys are
For us that
freaks.
are wise.
They were just-
yeah.
They were just early.
It was terrible, causing like extreme pain and like, yeah. Anyway, after a while, the pain just went away, and I was like, great, can move on with my life.
Sounds good.
And then 17 years went by, and then all of a
Everything was
sudden,
chill.
I woke up on a Thursday night, and the right side of my like jaw, neck, cheek, and even like I could feel it in my ear was completely swollen.
It's the worst.
And I was like, that's strange. And I like couldn't close my mouth all the way. And I looked in the mirror, and I had like the gum in the back of my mouth was like swollen up over my teeth. So that was terrible. Because I have like a wisdom tooth that's like partially breached, just way in the back. And I never chew with it because it's like way in the back, and I don't have like a matching tooth in the top because it's like wisdom tooth, you
Makes
know?
sense.
So anyway, it's just like, it's a spare tooth. I'm just like, hey, what's up? You hang out back there and just don't cause any trouble. And we had that
Too
agreement
much
for
to ask.
17 years. Yeah.
Too much.
And
to
then all of a
ask.
sudden he was like, hey,
2020.
yeah, perfect. I'm going to freak out now.
I shall act out.
You know,
So-
2012, the movie / the was it Aztecs or the Mayan
Yeah.
calendar
They
thing?
were 8 years off.
Their math was just a little funky.
They forgot to carry the
It
one.
turns out, yeah.
It's actually this year.
So, tooth incident occurred at the same time that wildfires decided to strike. I'm sure you may know by now, but there's been some just crazy wildfires going on over here in the West Coast. We live in Oregon, and
Thursday was the day we went to level 2
yeah,
also.
yeah.
Evacuation.
So we had a lot of evacuation. So
Oh my gosh.
2/3 of our group was displaced, and our anniversary trip, which was also kind of interfering with the podcast, also got fully derailed. So mass chaos reigned.
Everything
so
sucks. And we're
apologize
all
for that.
crying.
Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. Legitimately, we really do appreciate it, and
Yeah.
just love having fun with other Attack on Titan fans and doing the show with you guys and all the emails and stuff like that. Which, if you haven't, feel free to reach out. Like, just even if it's like, hey, I like the show, and that's it. Anyway, we love hearing from you guys. I love hearing you in the emails.
Yeah.
beyondthebasementpodcast @gmail.com. So with that, we'll now finally get to a quick recap of episode 34. And can you turn that down like one notch, actually, just for the sound? Yeah. Anyway, all right. So this episode is very interesting because I could basically summarize it as scouts move out, Eren, Ymir, Reiner, Bertholdt talk in the woods.
And the scouts continue to.
Yeah, scouts front.
That's
That's
really all that
literally the
happens.
whole thing. So a little more detail is you'll remember the last episode. They're like, all right, Eren's been abducted. Ymir's out there with him. And the scouts are like, all right, well, we just got our horses. We finally got our gear together. It's been hours, but we're going to go try and catch up with them. So they take off. So that's where this episode begins. We see them kind of running after them. Hanji makes this very special request, which you want to pay attention to, about seeing the disabled Titan that we saw in Connie's village. So then we cut to the forest of giant trees. We see that Eren is there with Sans arms, along with Ymir, and Bertholdt and Reiner basically have them prisoner, and we discover that they're there because they basically have to take a break. None of them can probably transform right now, or at least it seems for sure Ymir and Reiner can't, or sorry, Ymir and Eren cannot. So no ability to transform. They are surrounded by dumb titans, so they're under threat of that, and they're going to wait until nighttime before they can move. So we kind of already knew this because I think Hanji correctly predicted this from the previous episode. So in the meantime, it's like, well, why don't we just chat it up? Why don't we just talk about how much we hate each other and how horrible like life is and how much Reiner has mental problems? Like, can we just get into that? So it's a Dr. Phil episode. We were talking about how it's incredible to watch this episode and like it's so compelling. We were like pausing and writing stuff down. We're like, oh my gosh, we're like making all these connections, but like nothing really happens. It's just a lot of revealing of information, basically. So
there's lots of yelling and like it seems like maybe there's an earthquake happening, but there isn't.
But there's just emotion.
They're just trying to convey the intense emotions that are flying out of these dudes.
So we basically get some information on where they're going. We get a little bit of information about Ymir, a little bit about Reiner. He's in kind of a weird mental state. That's a lot of what's revealed.
His nut be cracked, yo.
There's a couple of flashbacks. Eren is really weirded out. They're all weirded out by Reiner's strange behavior. And it kind of ends on this like accusation coming out of Eren saying you're mass murderers, and him telling Ymir like, who's the enemy? Who is the enemy? Like what? Like Eren's kind of looking for somebody to fight. So this episode may have a little more in the spoilers section because there's a lot of things that we can't. A lot of things that get said during this episode that have to do with future episodes. And anyway, so we'll get to that. So this first part of the podcast might be a little shorter. So sorry for those of you who are non-spoiler people.
But know it's getting good.
Yes, but know that it gets good here. All right, so let's see here. Why don't we do Hanji's thing first?
Hanji, the freaking boss.
Yeah.
She's like crawling on the ground like a zombie. I must get to the village.
Give me a horse.
Give me a horse. And her attendant's like, you can't ride a horse right now, you idiot. You can't even stand up. I'm paraphrasing.
Hanji is the zombie equivalent, but like instead of brains, she craves like mysteries and knowledge,
Scientific information.
Secrets.
So sort of like brains, except without the actual physical brains. Just what's in the brains.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's there and she's like in a really bad state, and even Hanji in like the worst state possible is still way more valuable than like half of the soldiers and the scouts, because it's not her arms that we care about. It's her brain. It's her intelligence. It's her Sherlock Hanji going to work. And she busts out this idea that's been in the back of her unconscious coma brain for the last little bit. Then she turns, as they all ride off, the scouts, led by the stallion of the scouts himself.
Erwin Smith, dude.
Erwin Smith.
What a gun.
Commander Erwin Smith.
Like, if you don't already like him at this point, that's okay. That's just because you're not totally familiar with him, but you should like him at this point. But you're about to love him. I'm just going to say that.
It's
like looking at a rainbow and being like, meh, I've seen better. You're like, no, that's literally the coolest thing, you know? So then Hanji turns to this guy's like, get me a horse. You're like, you're crippled and you can't move. Like, I have to get a horse. You're like, okay, why do you have to get a horse? And she's like, I got to go back to that village where there was the Titan who couldn't walk.
Yeah.
Which we know is Connie's village. The Titan who couldn't walk was on top of Connie's house.
And appeared to speak at one point to Connie saying, welcome home.
And
little ET moment there.
So then Hanji obviously has some sort of theory. She's like, I've got a theory. I've got to go like investigate, right? So
she says, I have a hunch we must investigate.
Yeah,
is what she says.
yeah. So I'm stoked because it means Hanji's on the trail of that, which means it's going to get figured out. And we're going to get some sweet info and some deets and finally figure out exactly what happened there in the walls.
I appreciate the way he replies to her, though. He's like, okay, I'll go. You faint or something. And then he runs off and she literally faints.
She just passes out. So good. Oh, Hanji. Never change.
Never change, honey. We love you too much. So that's just kind of a quick hit to let you know that part of the story is still taking place. Again, we'll cover in the spoiler section.
I feel like in this
Then
episode,
they show all the horses.
they could have gone there, but instead they're like, we'll just give you some
Little tease. Here.
some teas.
Have a taste of the delicious pie that's
it's to
coming. But
kinda
don't
keep-
actually eat it.
It's to kind of keep this thread of the story in the back of your mind because Hanji, Hanji and Armin tend to function as these like sources of information about like strategy, but like the Titans themselves, right? They're kind of helping us, the viewer, understand the mystery, and so they're kind of saying like, hey, don't forget Hanji's here and she's about to figure out more like mysterious like stuff, and that she's on the task. So we cut to the scouts. Information. They're on horseback. They're taking off, and we get this quick clip of what am I trying to say? Reiner. No. Hannes, not
Yeah,
Reiner.
Hannes,
Totally different character.
Mikasa
Not
and
even close.
Armin.
Hannes is basically kind of reassuring Mikasa. Again, this is just like a quick reminder. He's reassuring Mikasa, like, hey, Eren's going to fight. You know that. And so don't give up hope. Just know that we need to be there for him when he needs us. And again, if you didn't like Hannes before, which you should by now, like, you're really going to love the guy. He
says we need to stay calm so that we can be there for him when he needs us, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which, if Eren needs anything in his life, it's somebody around that'll be to stay calm and to help him stay calm. He's a bit of a stress fest at times.
Yeah.
At times.
Eren would not be good at like financial planning. Like, spend it all. Oh, shoot.
So then we get back to the woods. And they kind of re-show the clip we got from last episode. And he's like, oh, Eren, like, you're up, basically. And we see Eren. He has no arms. Well, mostly no arms.
He has
Yeah.
little nubbins.
He's unarmed.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
He seems to be kind of tied up in his thing, and he like wiggles himself free, and then he's got like little chicken wings.
Little
You know
nubs.
why he's unarmed, though?
Why is that?
The reason he's unarmed is because they couldn't wrist it.
Well,
Okay, so anyway,
It's been a couple of weeks. Okay, I haven't been able to get my bad jokes out.
he's got 4 kids, so
I've
we're
got 4
clear.
kids.
the dad jokes be
So-
strong with this one.
We learned from Reiner that we assume this was tactical. Ymir's in bad shape too, but I think she was kind of just in bad shape. I think they didn't have to
she's
do
still
anything
been
to her.
healing.
Their words.
She got jacked up, like your words.
Yeah. A bunch of Titans tried to eat her alive, and
But Reiner
right
was
when
like,
the scouts showed up.
yeah, Eren, no, I did that on purpose. I can't trust you. And the second Eren sees Reiner, what does he do? He bites his arm.
Wait,
I'll
wait.
kill you right now.
Did he say that? I'm pretty sure he said, "Sorry, that's my fault. I was in a hurry."
Yeah, he's
When
in
I
a hurry. He's like, I went to
ripped you
bite
out of your nape.
and had no regard for your arms.
Yeah.
But he definitely did it on
He
purpose.
meant. I thought he
Yeah.
meant the opposite. I thought he meant he didn't bite his arms off when he bit him out, and then he had to go back and cut his arms off.
No.
That makes more sense what you guys are saying.
Oh,
However
okay.
it happened,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was on purpose because he knew. He's like, yeah, I can't let
He
anything-
didn't have any regard for his arms. He was also in a hurry
Yeah.
because, the scouts were there and Eren almost defeated him.
Yeah.
But the second Eren can, as soon as he gets his wits about him, he's like immediately attack mode. I was fighting. He doesn't remember all that what happened, and he immediately tries to bite his like nub that he has to get himself to go full Titan. And even though we find out later he actually can't, because you have some sort of like
It's like a cool
I'm
down.
not 100% convinced that he couldn't because Reiner's like, no, Eren, don't. As
Well-
if he thought he could. And Ymir also told him, don't do that right now. Look around you.
yeah. Well, Ymir's trying to talk sense to him, like don't be sporadic and crazy. We want to get some answers. I think is what she's trying to say.
Yeah, she's kind of already on the right track, but yeah, whether or not he can turn it into a Titan it seems, we'll say it this way, it sure
It's
seems
probably
unlikely.
unwise to do it.
Unwise, but I'm saying the chances he could do it, Reiner seems pretty sure that he wouldn't be able to anyway. There's basically a cooldown. There's like a reset time in between being able to
Yeah.
transform, and it kind of has to do with like your energy, and it's not,
Training.
they don't define it. But yeah, training.
because we know it is possible because of Annie. and he was able to
pretty quickly
transform, go back, and then within
be ripped apart and then
not
transform
too long
again in a short
transform
period.
again.
But she wasn't as strong. She wasn't as fast because her body was at its limit,
Well,
which
yeah,
is what
she fought
Reiner
Eren.
says. Reiner says your body is at its limit
Yeah.
trying to regenerate,
Yeah.
which tells me that he could probably, but he wouldn't be very strong.
But he's
He
not even
probably
healing.
wouldn't be very fast.
He's not even healing well right now.
Right,
Like, it-
exactly.
I think they're pretty
yeah.
jacked up. And he even says, like, oh, if Reiner even had to take a break, there's probably I'm not going to be able to transform.
Yeah.
Which Reiner doesn't actually say that's the reason they stopped.
He says use your imagination, and then Eren has to do the
I
reasoning.
freaking hate this. I'm like, just give me answers, Reiner, okay? Just speak the truth here, okay? Quit speaking in these metaphors and these, these semantical terms. Like, just tell me what's what. But he
in
wants
this
to leave it
episode,
all.
Ymir functions as like the Hanji or Armin, and she starts explaining everything that we need to know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, tell us, Rach, you've had a pretty good thumb on Ymir's character, I feel like, in describing her like abilities. You've called it a superpower.
She has the ability to figure out people's inner workings in the way that Armin and Hanji have the way to, figure out strategy and the overall what's going
Science,
on.
yeah.
She's really intelligent and she figures out people's motives and what their goals are and their emotional inner workings
Yeah.
and
She reminds me
psychological
of-
state of being.
She was a friend like Jennifer. Remember Jennifer? She Kyle's sister. Like,
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, personality. Yeah, I can kind
Yeah.
of see it there. Yeah.
She's like super nice, but then she also like
super harsh at times, too.
was just like really harsh at times, and you're not sure like why. And not that she wasn't an awesome person, a cool person, but just like Ymir is got this, like you said, superhuman ability to like figure out people's.
It's like people are made of paper and she's the only one that can read it.
Yes, and it's not like she has Ymir. It seems like she doesn't have the same empathy.
She doesn't have compassion or empathy.
She doesn't give
compassion.
any
but she
cares
is
about people's
emotionally
feelings.
intelligent. Yeah.
Yes.
She's also a bit of a sociopath. Like, she
Yeah.
can read you really well and doesn't care about you, really.
And it's more fascinating to her rather than like, oh, I'm sorry you feel this way. It's
Yeah.
more like, oh, you feel this way? Wow, isn't that crazy?
That's what I'm saying, how she's like Hanji. Hanji gets excited about, oh, your arm can grow back? That's magnificent.
Yeah.
Your hand is missing, but it's coming back. Like she doesn't really care about the pain or the fact that his hand is missing, but she's so excited. And Ymir seems like really excited about people's emotional trauma and how they work it out and continue functioning
Yeah.
in that same way.
Yeah, like it excites her to like figure out
Yeah.
somebody's like emotional what's the term?
Inner workings.
Not just that, but like their motivation, their emotional
Yes.
motivations. Yeah.
She reminds me of a science professor I had in college who, like, I've actually been thinking this whole time. So I had this professor in college, and the first day of class, he has to like announce like a lot of things to us. And instead of doing like the normal announcements, he's like, okay, you guys know the drill. Like, I don't know, sit wherever you want, don't be late, and don't fail my class. And because normally it's like a syllabus, it's like, here's all the requirements for the class. And he like didn't spend a whole lot of time in that like a boring teacher normally would. So the first thing he cuts to is A, you need to learn to think for yourselves. And B, you need to know something about me, which is that I was born with this superpower that I've had my entire life that I don't mean to, but it's going to happen. He's like, I'm serious. It will happen. It may be more than once, but for sure it'll happen at least once in the semester you have me. I like to kid around and stuff like that, and I have this weird ability to accidentally put my finger and make fun of exactly the thing you're actually really insecure about. And here's the thing is, my turn came. My day actually came like eventually, but I watched him do it. People would be walking into class and he'd be like, whatever, like he'd say something like an athlete or somebody did sports something and walk in and be like, rough game last night. What were you thinking when that pass happened? And the guy would be like, oh God, like he'd cripple under it. Like, oh my gosh. Like he just happened to hit that one thing, or like somebody,
Oh gosh.
like one of my friends was like, I'm trying to remember. It was like during a lesson, he had like kind of an awkward hairline a little bit, but it wasn't something you'd really notice. You kind of have to almost be looking for it. And the teacher made some remark about the hairline. Freaking, he was spun for the next couple of days. Like, I hate that guy. Like, I'm like, he warned you. He said it was going to happen. And sure enough, I walk into class.
Destiny has that superpower. Let me just tell you.
She kind of does. She kind of does. So I go to walk into class. I sit down. I have done nothing. I have said nothing. And my day has just come. And he just looks at me. He's like, what are you like, a cross between a penguin and a Neanderthal? Your hunched shoulders, you're walking in like that. And I'm like, Let me just tell you, this is not something I actively knew I was insecure about until he said it, and I was like,
It burns.
oh, it's horrible.
It burns us.
Like I normally I'd have like a yeah, because like I do, and like
You
here's the thing is,
you have a little shuffle.
yeah,
and
I
you-
do. I sort of shuffle a
you
little bit and
do.
walk, and I hunch a little bit. And he was right. It was a perfect analogy for like the way he just like nailed it. Didn't mean to, but that's just like the way the dude's wired. And I feel like Ymir is like she's like that. She can just sort of see through. She can see through somebody and sort of see what they're thinking. Because we'll get to this, but where she goes, by the looks of Bertholdt's face, like I must be right. She's sitting here doing all the deductions, the Sherlock Holmes kind of thing, but she's like, just has a knack for reading people. And
She did it with Sasha already. We've already seen her do that.
Yes.
Why do you speak this way? Is it because you're ashamed of your accent?
that's what
Yeah.
made
I
me
bet
think of my
it's
teacher.
because, you're ashamed of where you come from. And Sasha's just like,
Yep.
Yeah, and then she kind of did a little bit where she took the heat off of Reiner in the tower when she makes fun of who is it?
Marco, or not Marco, Connie.
Connie's- Yeah, Connie's kind of still.
Village. She's like, oh, you're an
Yeah.
idiot for thinking like
Connie's
that.
like, it talked. And it kind of looked like my mom. And she was like, you're hilarious. Then you would be so short.
Yeah.
And like,
it seems like
Yeah.
she jumps in, but like the weird part is we're not sure how 40 chess she's playing, or she's just crazy and doesn't empathize well with people and just picks those weird things out.
yeah.
It's interesting. So Eren tries to bite his own nubs because he's that crazy. Eren will bite off his nub to spite you. And
Ymir explains how completely screwed they are.
Yeah, they're not
she's
going
like,
to get anywhere.
Look, there's a bunch of Titans all around us. And when this is happening, she could have just said that, but instead she like pans into the creepiest Titans possible.
She's like, look at that one down there.
Look at
That was
that
an
abnormal.
abnormal.
And he's just laying there like
He's
posed
holding
out
the
like
tree.
a model. and
He's
just
holding onto the
looking
tree
up,
like it's a stuffed animal and he's a toddler and he's just staring at his favorite candy.
and his eyes haven't moved off of us, she said. And then look at that one. There's one like creeping behind another tree, like peeking out. And she's like, oh, he's shy. I'm like, stop giving these monsters like titles.
She's like,
It's creepy.
he's a scaredy cat.
I want to kill them all. It's gross.
Ti-
I feel violated. And
And
just
then
looking
look at all
me.
those little ones. They by themselves would be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so she says, okay, we're surrounded in the woods by Titans. Getting out of here, just with our Titan transforming abilities, the fact that we're Titan shifters, that'd be hard enough. But then you have these dirty bastards. And she points to Reiner and Bertholdt. She's like, these guys have your ODM gear, so they can maneuver really well. They can escape whatever.
They
Which
could also
explains
transform.
where the other ODM gear came from.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
they
great.
can transform and beat the hell out of us. We already know. And we're pretty banged up right now. So let's just chill for a second.
Can I just take quick note the fact that Isayama pays enough attention to detail to explain something to you, like, oh, how did he get his ODM gear? I feel like that would be something that anybody else would have like
Yeah.
Meh.
put in there, but not explained to you.
Reiner just magically has this. We're not
Exactly.
gonna, and so does Bertholdt. But no, we already know where both of those came from.
Yep.
He takes
Brilliant.
great attention to details like that, which makes me very happy.
Well done. No plot holes.
No holes.
So he says,
This is not Swiss cheese.
yeah, no Swiss cheese.
Swiss
It's
cheese,
not,
though.
it's not the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So he says, yeah, look, Eren, just chill out. Don't go getting nuts. And it's pretty clear like they don't really want to have a scuffle or a fight. Everyone seems pretty like tired. And Eren's like, no, I'll kill you right now. And they're like, no, Eren, please don't try to kill anybody right now. You have no arms. Like, your arm's off. No, it isn't.
It's a flesh wound.
So he says, well, what? She's like, Ryder, what do you guys even want to do with us? You said you'd talk when
Yeah.
Eren woke up.
He's
So go
awake
ahead,
now.
talk. And Reiner says, we're going to take you guys to our hometown. Where is this hometown?
We don't flippin' know.
Can I? Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this. I'm gonna front load this episode with all the things I was thinking watching this the first time. So, the first time, which I'm sure you were there as well. Most of you, if you're not there presently as a first timer, you were the first time you watched this through. Everybody's theorizing about what's outside the walls or who is outside the walls.
I think it's Santa Claus. I'm just
So-
kidding. Sorry.
My like going theory at this point, because I'm like, oh, the hometown. I'm like, well, okay, clearly you're not from around here. And so my going theory was that the Dumb Titans were a threat to, like, there were other civilizations out there. They were just far apart from each other. And some of them were a little further ahead than others. And maybe they were at capacity, or maybe they were under threat, or for whatever reason, they decided that they needed to go, like, take over another society behind a different set of walls. That was, like, my theory, is that, like, all right, clearly these guys came from somewhere else. They're here to, like, attack. Like, there's a bunch of other intrigue and so on. And so I think that they're here to basically they're here to accomplish some mission on behalf of wherever they're from. And the reason I'm saying this is because I don't think you can that's not too big of a leap to make. That they're clearly from somewhere that seems to be like it's outside of the walls. They keep talking about their hometown. Well, if their hometown was inside the walls, why would they be in Titan-infested region right now? Like, why wouldn't they be going to wherever? And why,
and why did they break the walls down?
Yes, why did they break them down? So all these questions are still like in the back of your mind when you're watching this. And for me, rewatching this, I'm always amazed, which we'll get there, but I'm always amazed like the things that I got right and the things that I got completely wrong, because there's that much of like a twist basically on the story. But this whole like, we're going to take you back to our hometown, I saw it coming a mile away. I was like, they're kidnapping him to take him back because he's got the powers, and they're either going to try and brainwash him and make him work for them, or they're going to find a way to like augment his powers or make him a robot, or like they're going to do something. They've got technology that these people don't have. They're going to do something with Eren's powers. Like, to me, that seemed pretty clear. And I think he basically says as much in this episode. They're like, doesn't really discuss the powers, but we're taking you to our hometown. Says what I feel like I needed to know when I watched this the first time.
Interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of that I feel like is it lines up with what we were thinking and what they say in this episode. It's so difficult because in these next two episodes, they're going to say so much and yet say so little.
Yep.
And and you're only going to understand some of it. And then even on your second walkthrough, you're going to be like, oh, that's what they're saying. And then even now I'm like, is that what they were saying? I'm not even sure.
What?
So he says, look, these Titans are crazy right now. We don't want to fight. We're going to wait here till night, till they can't move, and then we're going to be able to continue. We're going to take you guys to our hometown. And Eren doesn't really seem to remember how he got here, what happened. He's still that, like, disoriented.
He's not as connected to himself as a Titan. It takes him a second. It's like he transforms and it's like he's had a few too many drinks, and he kind of like comes back to and is like, well, it's a little foggy, but...
Or like a deep sleep when you forget, like, what year is it when you come out? You're like, what is happening?
One of those.
Eren's wondering at this point, Ymir, oh, she's here, she's healing. Wait, did she know about this? She's a Titan. Like, is she on our side? Is she on our side is the question. She asks, hey, Reiner, you said these Titans can't move at night, but what about those Titans at the tower? They were all moving at night. And I'm like, good freaking question,
Good
Ymir.
call.
Yeah.
Good call.
We want to know why that was happening too.
Which tells me she doesn't know as much as Bertholdt and Reiner know.
Yeah.
But she knows more than Eren.
She knows
slightly more than Eren. She's able to actually think objectively about...
She can actually suppress her emotions.
Yeah, characters and whatnot. She's trying to get information. She says many times she has her own motivations, her own circumstances, her own reasons. And it seems like she's not wanting to try to play into our side or their side like Eren is. Reiner just dismisses it, though. He just says...
He seems like he thinks she should know the answer.
It's like, these Titans can't move at night. And you're like...
You should know that.
But
he does. He says you should know that. I'm actually still not totally sure what he means by that.
And she's like, no, I shouldn't.
So you kind of wonder what Reiner and Bertholdt think that she knows versus what she actually knows. Like, there's definitely like not everybody's on the same page here. And Ymir actually says openly, she says, I'm actually a little clueless when it comes to this whole Titan power stuff. But she's not totally clueless. But but here's the thing: she knows what she does.
Compared to them, she doesn't know what she's doing.
She knows that they know more about it than she does.
Yeah, we've got page 1 Eren, who knows nothing. Page 2 or 3 Ymir, who knows a little something. And we've got who knows what chapter or book
they might have finished the novel.
Reiner, Annie, and Bertholdt are on, because obviously they have flawless control of their powers. They have strategy, and they know.
They're very conscious of doing
it. They can communicate with each other when they're in Titan form. They remember everything.
Yeah. So here Eren says like the most intelligent thing he said
maybe ever.
all this entire show. He says, right now, it's smarter for me not to try to like run away. I need to get information. So I need to suppress my emotions, and I need to heal. You're like,
Eren, can you say it a second time, please?
It worked. All of your friends constantly telling you the same thing over and over again finally worked. And you finally got it through your thick skull.
But does he suppress his emotions? No.
For a minute. For a
No,
minute.
Yeah.
he does not.
For a minute.
30 seconds? I don't know.
He doesn't try to, he doesn't go off on a rampage, but he definitely immediately loses control of his emotions.
Yeah. So this is the crux of this episode. This is the reason this episode exists is so you'll understand at this point. And this point shows you the entire motivation that we know of so far behind Reiner and what he's doing and why he's doing it. And it sets up a giant, how do you say, contingency or giant, something
Plot
that is,
line?
plot line, but like something that's vulnerable in the future. I'm not sure the word I'm thinking
A
of right
chink in
now.
his armor.
It just shows up like something that could possibly affect all of what's going to come forward is this thing right here they're going to show you. And it's like a magician, and he's revealing to you like the tale, like the pledge, like here's what this is, and here's what I'm going to do with this. Is Isayama showing you this, and he's saying this information I'm going to give you right now is really important to help you understand the past and help you understand how the future is going to go. And I forget what the exact specific switch flip.
Ymir mentions the castle, and then he says the thing about you should know that, and then a little bit of time goes by.
And he's
make
still
that
thinking
clear.
about the castle.
And then she's going like this because she's hot, and she says, "Do you have any water? It's really hot."
Yeah.
And then that's when he's descended into madness.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Well, she says like this is like the friggin' worst circumstance possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't have any
we
water.
don't have any water, and none of us are going anywhere, which
Yeah.
this is kind of another key point is what the reason this scene works is because they actually are all basically trapped, right? So no one can transform. Even if you could, what are you going to really do about it? Because you're surrounded by titans.
Mm-hmm.
So they're stuck together, even though they're kind of captive. Like Ymir and Eren, at least for the moment, are basically captive to Bertholdt and Reiner. But Bertholdt and Reiner and everybody are captive to the situation they're in because they do need to stop to take a break, and they do need it for their bodies to recover so they can transform again, we presume. And then also for the sake of these titans, which apparently Reiner's confident these titans won't move around that much at night. So they are stuck in this together, which is why they're forced to have this conversation. And I think that the element of being trapped, I think this is a great kind of convention or scenario to put your characters in because it does make people do and say things a little crazy. I think this is
It's
true in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of adds to it adds to the tension. I mean, it's really important. Like, it's a music nerd thing, but like in music, one of like any great musician, any great like composer, like music writer type, everybody knows that it's about tension and release, and that there are various ways of creating that tension. I mean, sometimes you want to slow build, and sometimes you want to do it quickly, and sometimes you want to take a dramatic pause, and all these different kind of things. It's the same thing with writing, but you're doing it with people's emotions, and this is that episode. This is the tension and release like moment. They're building the tension right here because they are trapped together. We're finding out stuff about like we're kind of recoiling still from the shock of the previous like revelations and the fights and stuff like that. And while we're here, like Isayama unleashes what I think is one of the most like in-depth things like to add to a story, which is that one of the primary characters is not totally with it.
He's insane.
He's not like he is not himself is not even sure whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a villain or is he not? He's currently doing bad stuff. He's done bad stuff in the past, but he is confused about his very identity in a significant way. And he's like mentally broken, and he's also just been revealed as one of our core villains. Like, I love it. It's like there's so much nuance there.
Yeah. Yeah, the switch of...
Ymir says, this situation couldn't get any crappier, and then he's like, yeah, this is the worst, and then he goes off on some monologue about...
The switch gets flipped.
Mm-hmm.
We go from warrior, Reiner, villain Reiner, you can see it in his face. Oh, Eren, you've awoken. Like even this like dastardly look, this hard look, and you're like, oh, he's a bad guy. You're a bad guy. And then all of a sudden his features are softened. The sun is shining down on him. He's just like
sitting
talking to himself.
like a child.
And he's like, oh man, yeah, we haven't had a break for forever, man. I feel like we've earned it. At least the wall didn't break. I think we deserve a break. Like we should be getting promoted later, And we've done plenty to deserve it. And he's kind of talking to himself, but he's kind of also like talking maybe to the other people.
He's talking loud enough for them to hear him, but he's not looking at really them like talking to them.
Right.
Discussing something with
but
them.
it's kind of the same thing you do just when you're working.
Yeah.
You kind of just say stuff, and you're kind of saying it for them, but you're also just saying it, and it's kind of like one of those things where he's like,
"I'm sharing my internal dialogue with you."
He could very well be
Monologue,
right now on the wall cleaning a cannon or something like that,
yeah,
and just you're just jawing, you're just kind of passing the time, and they're all waiting around, and this switch is flipped, and he says, "Yeah, we've done, I think, plenty to deserve getting promoted. We've performed outstandingly enough given our situation."
And then Bertholdt's like, Reiner.
And he says, "Yeah, where did you guys even get that cannon from?" And you're like,
what is he talking about?
Well, actually, yeah. First Reiner says, Bertholdt says Reiner, and then he's like, "No, I think we deserve it." And he starts like defending his position.
Yeah, and Bertholdt looks concerned, by the way.
And then Ymir says, "Reiner, what are you talking about?" And that's when the cannon thing.
Well, he says, "I'm not talking about getting promoted to captains or anything.
Yeah.
I just, I think that we've done a lot, like, where did you guys even get that cannon from?" And you're like, "Oh.
Yeah, it took us a second to be like,
he's
cannon.
back. He's
back
not here. He's back in Utgard Castle, recovering. Since so much craziness has happened, nonstop craziness, he's back. He's not with us right now.
He's somebody else.
He's somebody else.
Switched to somebody else." So we'll throw this out here because Bertholdt basically kind of confirms this for us. But so we were talking about this. There's just a couple episodes ago. We have an episode called Soldier and an episode called Warrior, and it seems like there's a distinction. And Bertholdt in Utgard Castle actually says he's asked, "Was Reiner always a hero like this?" I think Connie asked him that, and he says, "No, he used to be more of a warrior than this."
Yeah,
as if there's a distinction between soldier and warrior and so in that episode we kind of see him as like soldier as in he belongs to the Scouts. He belongs to, humanity within the walls. Like he's
comrades, and he's willing to lay his life down and save other people at the risk of his own neck.
That's an identity, and that's an identity that he's assumed. And we think up to that point, or up to this point, that's an identity that is fake, and he's put on, which is essentially correct. That it was put on, right? It is a persona. It is based on a lie. And then there's also the warrior, and the warrior is not from around here. Warrior is harsh. Warrior is here on a mission.
Get the job done. At any means necessary.
Pay no regard to other people. Break down the walls. Do what you need to do. Get back to where you need to go. And so, what I have written in my notes here is like he's in soldier mode. Like he's a soldier identity. And as we discover in this episode, he doesn't seem to have control over when he's in which, and that's a liability. Is that the word you were looking for earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a word, but yeah.
Okay.
It's a complete liability because of everything that's going to happen in the future. Everything could be contingent on which switch is flipped in Reiner.
Yeah.
He says, "It's a good thing Krista was there.
Yeah.
I think she has a thing for me. She's always kind of been," and Eren is like,
after deciding not to lose his crap, he loses his crap.
Yeah.
I said 30 seconds.
But the problem is here Reiner is talking like he's one of us. And like, this is complete disrespect to those he's killed, to those he has caused their harm directly. And here he's like, "Yeah, remember when he's like, you just betrayed me. We just fought an all-out battle on the wall, and you killed many of my comrades, and now you're talking like we're friends." So Eren, I feel with him on this one. I'm like,
no, I don't blame him at all. I'm just saying.
Now, Reiner.
But then Reiner's confused. He's like, what did I say? What did I say that's so wrong? Like, because he's so deeply into his psychosis.
He doesn't remember what he just said 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Where he was like, "Yeah, you can't run, and we're taking you to our hometown." Yeah. And like he was in warrior mode 5 minutes ago.
He's got straight split personalities, and he does not have the access to the same information that the other personality has. He does not share information.
Which Ymir explains in a little bit.
He also, this is just like, if you've ever known or talked with somebody who has like Alzheimer's or like advanced dementia, they have their little circle of what they can talk about, what they know about, and what they can think about. And you cannot get them out of that circle no matter what. Yeah. Everything you say comes back to that circle.
And that circle can
weather.
Move.
Yeah. You talk about this, but maybe they're stuck 5 years ago, and they're just going to talk about 5 years ago. He's right now just stuck in Utgard Castle, He's talking about, we're going to be back on the wall. Maybe we'll get promoted. Maybe Krista. Maybe we'll have that future. And Bertholdt is freaking out because this is the guy, obviously, that he's like committed this atrocity with. This is like the burglar. You guys are burglars together. And your buddy like doesn't know who he is and what he's fighting for. And half he's on their side and half he's on our side. And you can tell by the look on Bertholdt's face, he's scared. He does not like this part of Reiner. So Eren stands up and he's like, "You bastard." And Ymir looks at Eren and is like, "This isn't normal. You're missing it, Eren. He's not taunting you. He's broken."
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Bertholdt?
Hang on. So I'm trying to find this place in my notes here. Where'd you get Cam from? Ymir says, "Oh, that's her line." She says, "No. Yeah, Eren, you're missing it. This isn't normal, no matter what. Like, not only is he like he's not trying to upset you right now. Like this isn't normal for him. Period. And isn't that right, Bertholdt? Because she's fully picking up on the fact that Reiner's having like a psychotic episode here.
Bertholdt's completely freaked out by it.
Yeah, he's freaked out. And then this is where he asks him. He says, Reiner, you're not a soldier. Remember, you're not a soldier.
Yeah,
he has to use that word for him to be like.
He says, "You and I, we're warriors. Remember."
Mm-hmm. And so he goes into this.
And then there's this strange earthquake that only we seem to be
emotional
aware of.
earthquake happens right here.
But like you're saying, he fixated on those two separate phrases, which we don't know what it is in the Japanese.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But for us, in English, obviously, those words are often synonymous. They often mean the exact same thing, but occasionally they can mean different things.
Yeah, you separate them, yeah.
To us, soldier always means that you have a commander and you follow orders.
Yeah.
Right?
You're a part of a bigger system. Maybe it's the state or something like that, but you belong to a unit. You belong to a group. You're a soldier as a member of other soldiers.
But a warrior doesn't always mean that.
Warrior can be an individual.
A soldier always is a warrior, but a warrior isn't always a soldier.
Yeah, I would say that's about right.
A warrior can be an individual. Think the Bad A adventurer in most like video games. Like those guys are warriors, but they don't necessarily belong to like a higher power. They're not connected to another
a mercenary
army.
Can also be a warrior.
Yeah. And so we kind of said like a soldier follows orders, but a warrior kind of fights for a specific purpose or cause, right? We don't know the cause or specific purpose of Bertholdt and Reiner and Annie, but we know that it seems very devious. It seems terrible, and Reiner is losing that compass, and he's not being able to differentiate.
Yeah, and he's sort of like, I was going to make this comment earlier, but it's like he's sort of speaking out of context, like the canon thing and being back in the castle and like his like kind of back and forthness or whatever. Zaya, you may listen to this when you're older, but you know how Zaya sometimes will just like come up to you. This is one of Pete's kids. Yeah, he's 8, 7.
He's 8.
He's 8.
So he's a little boy. All little boys do this, but like I just cracked him up because I'm around Zaya enough, and so he does this a lot. And in his mind, he's thinking about like Pokemon or whatever like game he was playing or whatever he was doing in the backyard an hour ago. And you show up to the house and like you weren't in the backyard an hour ago, or you weren't playing Pokemon with him, and he'll sort of just jump in like mid-story.
Yeah.
He's like, He's like, so I was, I did Electrode, but then he countered me. And then I'm like, Zaya, whoa, slow down. Like, give me some context here. Like, I don't know where you're at.
Zero context.
Because he's kind of just like, he's just.
Everyone thinks the same way I do. Yeah. And you're with him in this great adventure he's on.
Now, I relate because I definitely used to do the same kind of stuff. I feel like I still do that sometimes. And I feel like that's Reiner. It's like he's sort of just like something happened and he's picked back up. Like,
completely out of context.
Like he was in this thought process at some point a while ago, and then he just picked back up and just started talking back as if that's the context that he was in, and that's the conversation he's in.
The switch
Nobody else has that context. And so in the same way, I'd be like, Zaya, like, back up. Like, I remember I wasn't there when you were playing that game. I was at work today or whatever. Yeah. Like, tell me, like, can you back up and tell me more? Like, which game? Sometimes I don't even know what game he's talking about, It's just he has to explain it to me. Bertholdt sort of being like, hey, remember, like, that ain't you. And then the emotional earthquake happens. It's like he says just the wrong thing almost. Emotional earthquake happens, and we get this crazy flashback. And in this flashback, we see Reiner with what looks like warrior face on, and we think it's him. We see
there's a struggle.
A struggle, a hand behind the back.
Someone is pinned to the ground, and it appears
and then we see
the
Reiner,
one pinning.
His face, we think he's the one doing the pinning, and a voice shouts,
hear a voice.
Reiner, what are you doing? And then we
the
see
next
somebody getting
scene,
eaten.
In the next little flash, we see Bertholdt and Annie, and they've got tears in their eyes.
Well, Annie's trying to look away.
Full
She's wincing,
on weeping.
which not something.
She has actual like tear streaks.
She really, I missed that.
She's full on weeping. Bertholdt has tears in his eyes.
Like, you can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then Reiner is there, and it slowly pans to Reiner.
His surprised face.
And he says, "Why is Marco being eaten?" with tears in his eyes. So now we know that they were there.
I don't want to betray. I don't want to lose heart.
They were there when Marco got eaten. What happens? We don't know the full story yet. We know the context. We're going to get there eventually. But we know that they were there, and we know that there's something inside, and we know that Ymir brings up the theory. She says, basically...
Well, she says, I figured it out. She's confident.
When he comes out of the flashback, he begins to weep. Reiner does. He starts crying.
Yeah. It's like he's brought back to current
he remembers.
events, and it's like these things triggered
this
him.
Happened.
Yeah, and he says, sorry. Basically, we think PTSD Reiner has developed a split personality to deal with like the self-hatred of the atrocities that have happened.
Yeah, she says.
Ymir explains it all.
She says, okay.
Why would the guy who broke down the walls risk his life to save Connie?
And we brought this up in previous episodes. We were saying this exact thing, which is, it seems odd to have a cover that goes so deep that you would do things that are legitimately beneficial when there would be no downside essentially to him letting people go. He could say, I was afraid, or I just didn't like the risk was too high. Like, he could have all these legitimate explanations to cover why he didn't do something heroic, but that wasn't the case. He actually did something heroic. Like, he actually kind of risked himself. He actually put a lot on the line to save somebody because he actually cared about that somebody. And so the assumption that we made then, and that obviously we can make now, is that he got so in character. We mentioned this before, like Undercover Cops or something like that, getting so in character. They get so in tuned to the role that they're playing that they kind of lose sight of like reality. And that's what Ymir is suggesting right here, is that he's like lost sight of himself. Why would the guy who broke down the wall risk his life to save Connie? Everything he does is contradictory. But he doesn't even realize it himself. And again, this is Ymir being super like smart. She's like reading him like a book. She's starting to figure it out. She's finding like kind of the cracks in the pavement here. Like, he has this contradictory thing, and he isn't aware that he even has the problem.
Yeah, he says
that's the key.
She says, I don't know how he ended up like this, but he's a warrior who pretended to be a soldier for so long. He lost sight of who he was and couldn't tell which one was real. He's at war within himself. Fundamentally, he's at two different sides. He wants to protect the walls, and he's the reason the walls are broken down.
What a weird
And he had to develop some
coping mechanism
in his brain to stop himself from going crazy, to deal with the guilt and to justify himself.
Yeah. She says he was unable to bear the weight of his sins, so he convinced himself that he was a soldier protecting the wall in order to maintain the emotional balance in his heart. So she just like puts her finger right on it there. It is like...
And in the end, he believed it.
In the end, he believed it. He got so deep in his cover, he got so emotionally involved that he believed it. He became the Reiner that the scouts knew him to be. And
he was that good guy.
He was the good guy.
Yeah, he wasn't acting. That was a part of who he was.
He saved Connie because he wanted to save Connie. Like, that's who he was.
He has a crush on Krista because he has a crush on Krista. But then also there's this other part of him, this like beaten, repressed part of him that is completely wicked, or the antithesis of what he is. And it's almost like a what's that movie? Arnold Schwarzenegger, head exploding lady.
Total Recall?
Total Recall.
I was going to say it's on Prime
almost like Total Recall, because if you haven't seen the movie,
just listen. It's been around since like late 80s. When that movie
it's been
around for a while.
You've had a chance, okay?
30 years.
You've had like 30 years to watch this.
There's even another remake with Colin.
There has literally,
Colin Farrell or whatever.
2017 one or whatever.
Yeah. So in this, he's this like mild-mannered guy, construction worker guy or whatever, who like goes on this crazy journey and finds out like his life is a lie and like goes to
not
Mars.
who he thinks he is.
Yeah, he goes to Mars, like discovers destiny, summation. But essentially he ends up realizing, wait a second, he's not like this great hero. He's an undercover bad guy, and they made himself think that he was the good guy to get in so deep in undercover to break up this ring.
Yeah, they sold him a good guy. So that's the basic premise of the movie. Is like massive spoilers. Okay, they sell these bad guys. Take one of the most wicked guy that they have. He's literally like the worst, and he's the most capable. And they're like, okay, in order
we're gonna wipe your memory.
We're gonna wipe your memory, and we're gonna sell you as if we're gonna make you a perfect spy. We're gonna sell you, we're gonna put inside of your memory that you are one of these guys that we're trying to destroy. And here's like your mission. Here's all the things you're gonna go do. You're gonna try and help, but his helping is not helping. His helping is actually ends up destroying and opening up a way for all these bad guys to come in and infiltrate and so on. But
he believes it so much.
But he believes it. They actually put him, and he lives it so long and so much that instead of ever recalling like, oh yeah, I'm one of the bad guys, I should join back up with that team, he goes, no, I don't
want to be one of you guys. He realizes exactly. He's Robert the Bruce. I don't want to lose heart. He realizes so deeply, wait a second. You guys got me so messed up into like believing this that now that I can see objectively, I don't want to go back to this.
Yeah.
I want to be on this side.
They accidentally gave him a moral compass.
Yes, yeah. And so that's a little bit of what's happening with Reiner here. He's obviously flipping back and forth between these two personalities. He hasn't made a choice yet, either one, which who he's going to be.
His memories are now broken. He doesn't... Yeah.
But he's very jacked up. As a result, his heart was split and his memory's broken. And Ymir says, this is not the first time Reiner's talked and made no sense like this, right? Like
again, looking at Bertholdt like, huh? I'm right. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah. All the while being psychoanalyzed, Reiner's like, shut your freaking mouth. Everyone's talking about me like I'm not in the room.
He comes to the conversation.
Yeah. Warrior Reiner seems to come back.
Tells her
to
shut up. She's like, I'm sorry. Perhaps I pried too much.
Yeah. And for a second, you're like, oh, this poor guy. And then Eren hits the nail on the head and he's like, who the hell are you pretending to be a victim? And I'm like, dang it, that's right.
He got some justice. Okay, we're going to get to the sweet justice in a second. I want to take a quick rabbit trail to a deep philosophical point.
Okay.
Psychological point, perhaps.
Okay.
We grow up, and everybody has this basic assumption in one direction. The argument of nurture versus nature, right? Are you the person you are today? Are you mostly a product of nurture, meaning like how were you raised? What was the environments you were in? Who were the people you were around? How were you taught? Or are you mostly a product of nature, meaning were you kind of just born that way? Like you were
your DNA.
You were always destined to be what you're going to be. And everybody knows that it's somewhere in the middle. It's a combination of the two, because there are physical things like, your height and stuff like that are pretty well preset. Like genetics are genetics. You're going to be what you're going to be. But we also know there's lots of things that sort of define your environment. So that is background. There's another sort of psychological argument that goes on, which is the argument between, okay, do you behave the way that you behave? Are your actions, the things you say and do, mostly based on what you believe, or are the things you believe mostly based on the things that you say and do? And again, there's an interplay between the two. I don't think that it's one or the other. I don't think anybody would be like, for sure, you first have a belief and then you act on that belief, and it's only ever in that order. Well, that's not necessarily true, because sometimes people kind of in the heat of the moment or in the emotions or because of the group they're around or something like that, they behave in a certain way, and then they do the behavior, and then that's what causes them to, agree to the belief. So the Total Recall thing is a perfect example. That's actually what the movie is based on, is this exact psychological principle, which is that there's something to doing a behavior which changes what you believe, sometimes what you believe even about yourself, or what you believe about morals, or what's right and wrong, or how the way the world works. And so case in point, in Japan, this is a really horrifying story. I don't know why I thought of this one, but if you ever heard of the rape in Nanking, there's books on it. I recommend it because you got to know history. I also don't recommend it because it's the most vicious thing you've ever read in your life. There's not to get too political, but there's nothing in America's history that looks remotely like this. So the rape of Nanking, at the time, to be a Japanese soldier, they would bring in new recruits, and they would bring them in, and they would say, okay, in order to basically belong, in order to finish your training, even though they'd finished basic training, and now they're out in the field, they're out in China oppressing these people, they would hand them a sword, and you would have to cut a man's head off with your own hands. And the reason they did this is because that is how they could mentally instill in these soldiers that that's the kind of person they were. You're the kind of person that's they would force you to do it, whether or not you wanted to. They would force you to cut a man's head off. And then that behavior would then influence how these young Japanese soldiers believe, like what they thought about themselves. They now knew that they were capable of taking a man's head off with a sword, which is a whole different kind of twisted, like I said, a really dark example. But so with Reiner in the show, Reiner is participating in all of the things the other scouts are participating in. The way they talk, the way that they act. He's heard, remember, we're about to see Eren kind of go off on him about, like, you heard my story. He's like emotionally connected with these people. He's behaved in the same way as they have and talked in the same way that they have. And it's almost as if those behaviors have then changed what he believes, right? And so I feel like the typical thing is, no, I believe something and then I act based on that. So that would be like Bertholdt, right? I whatever his mission is or whatever he thinks of these people, he even says, to Eren, like, I used to feel sorry for you. Thought I felt sorry for you in that moment. But it was a lie. For him, it was a lie. He has a belief and he acts on that belief. But Reiner kind of has the opposite. He has a behavior and now he's believing based on that behavior. The reason I bring that up is because it's true for all of us in our own life. If you can, I'm trying to think of like a good example, but this idea of like, if you get up and you start your day right and you go like check something good off your to-do list that was kind of hard to do, you'll do more that day. You'll get even more done that day because you feel you behaved in a way you're like, oh, a successful person would have made this phone call first thing in the morning, and I must be successful because I feel good about the fact that I made this phone call and I completed this thing on my list. And that you did the behavior, and now the behavior is sort of changing what you believe and now influencing further behavior. And so this is true for everybody. You can, go work out for the first time and think, get up early and go for a run or something like that. And you get back and you feel like, oh, yeah, no, I'm the kind of guy that goes running early in the morning. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things like happen. They're very real. They're so real that, like I said, stories of cops and stuff undercover, like this stuff happens in real life. And again, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think this is applicable to all of us. If you can find a way to change your behaviors, if you've got some self-destructive tendencies or something like that, take a day off from your self-destructive tendencies, go do something else and see about how you feel about yourself, what you believe then. And
then you have to keep that positive momentum going. It doesn't just magically flip a switch in one day.
Yeah, Reiner's case is extreme.
Yeah. Well, he was doing it for 3 years. We're 3 years out from his, joining
day one,
the military. So even with that, it takes years.
I was going to say, it kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me of somebody who's raised in a very terrible environment as a young child, and they don't know any better. When you're like abused, like you don't know any different. There's something I think deep inside you that says like this is wrong and terrible and I want justice.
Mm-hmm. But you've never seen anything else.
But you don't know any doubt. You don't know reality other than the reality you have that you've grown up with. That everybody gets abused like this, or everyone gets talked to like this, or everyone gets hurt like this, and you make excuses as to why it's okay. Instead of saying no, this is wrong and I do something about it, you almost like enable it because you don't know any different. But then, and you grow up thinking that, then you're exposed to something different.
Yeah, you go hang out at a friend's house and their parents are really respectful and like love them, and you're like, what? Like,
and the family cares about one another and speaks to each other kindly, and you realize, wait a second, there's something better.
Do you think that's happening to Reiner? Do you think he's seeing people like love each other and he's like, yes, I want to love too?
That's what I have been saying this whole time.
I think so too, actually.
Dang.
Yes, I think he never knew that there was beauty outside. There was love. There was like truth.
Yeah, I think that's why Annie and Bertholdt are also expressing emotions of regret. And I mean, if you look at Bertholdt, he doesn't look very happy either.
No, all they know
is
to be
tormented
these warriors.
in a different way, but he definitely looks tormented as well. And Annie, she's crying in the flashback, and we do remember another flashback where she's crying and says, "I'm so sorry," which means she's regretful.
Mm-hmm. She had a tear when she got crystallized too.
I seem to recall someone saying, "I never thought you'd be this way." Can't remember.
Like that to Annie, you're saying?
No. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, so I'm going to keep it to myself for now.
My point was, I think that there's something to do where you don't know any different. So you're just doing what you've been doing all the time, and then you're exposed to something better than you've realized, and all of a sudden it makes you want that thing.
Yeah.
And to us, like, I feel like there's lots of stories, teenage stories, where like there's like the bad guy and he hangs out with the good guys for a while, and he's like, oh, maybe I want to be a good guy, but it's like he's reluctant or whatever. I feel like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was kind of like that. There might have been a story like that. I'm trying to remember exactly.
Okay, well,
we're getting way off course here.
But I do have to mention one last one, which is The Last Samurai. The Last Samurai is almost this story.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because The Last Samurai, he goes in as an attacker. Like, he's literally a hired, like, hand to go decimate this Japanese, like, feudal age, like, army or whatever. And he goes in, they capture him. And while he's there, he, like, is
assimilates.
resistant. But he, like, starts to learn the language. Yeah, exactly. And he,
Avatar.
like, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're all the same story. Like, he goes in and he's like, he sees the good in, like, the culture. There's an Abraham Lincoln quote, which is, there's a man I don't like very much. I need to get to know him better.
Dang.
And his whole point is, like, when you get to know somebody, you get to see what you see the good and the bad. You'll start to weigh more carefully who it is that you have bad thoughts about.
Wow.
So
Good stuff.
Anyway.
So I think that's what's happening. That's my theory going forward. Eren, though, is about to let him have a dose of reality.
Sweet justice. Here it comes.
Eren, the prosecutor, has got these guys in the stand, and they are going to answer, okay? He is Phoenix Wright Eren right now, and he says, who the hell are you pretending to be the victim? What the hell were you guys thinking that night when I shared my story with you? I told you everything, and you looked me right in the eyes. And he even calls out Bertholdt. He's like, hey, you freaking lackey, I'm talking to you. Like, get him, bro.
Dude.
No excuses.
Don't let it make him squirm.
He says, I told you about the day my mother was eaten. The piece of wall that fell in my house was from your guys' attack. What the hell were you thinking when I told you? And Bertholdt kind of looks at his knees, hugs himself, and says, I thought I felt sorry for you then. And Eren says, oh, I get it. You're neither soldiers nor warriors. You're murderers. You're psychotic mass murderers. And Reiner's like, you don't think I'd know that? And then he's like, then quit pretending like you have emotions like the rest of us, you freaking piece of murdering whatever. And I'm like, Eren, I so agree with I want the justice so bad right now.
Dude, stick it to them. No, they deserve every bit of this.
Yeah. And so Reiner says, oh, you want us to apologize? Will that make you feel better? Will that give you satisfaction? If you want to scream your damn head off as much as you want, right? Like, he's just like deflecting as much as he can.
They both just scream at each other until their voices are echoing off the giant trees.
And Eren,
More
you can
emotional
tell,
earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Eren's wheels are turning, and he says, oh, I know what I have to do. I have to make you guys suffer the absolute worst death possible. I've got to do what I can. And I'm like, heck yeah, Eren, let's get some justice. But Ymir's
like, if you keep saying childish things like that, I have no hope for you.
Yeah, and I'm like, what do you mean childish things? He wants justice for his mom. He wants to bring some justice
I
here.
was going to say, he's the adult in the room right now. He's the one saying, don't you realize that your actions have consequences?
Yeah. But then Ymir says, yeah, Reiner, what's the deal with that monkey? You know that beast titan? It made the titans rise up within the walls. I wonder if he was trying to assess our strength. And Reiner's like, what are you talking? Oh, yeah, the beast titan. She's like, yeah, you guys were freaking out and sweating when you saw him. And she's like, that's the thing.
You want to run to him now, don't you?
Yeah, and she says that she surmises that if you can just get us to him, you guys can go home. That's that's the way this deal works. So she's maybe giving us.
Meanwhile, Eren's like, what monkey? What are you talking about?
Yeah. And she says, Eren, if you think killing these two will change anything, you're gravely mistaken. And then we kind of realize what she was saying is, Eren, I'm starting to lose hope in you, is not that, we're wanting justice is bad. It's that these two are just two pieces in the puzzle. Mm-hmm. There's something grander than this going on. Something has to do with that monkey. Something has to do with that beast titan. Sadly,
though, in that phrase, she revealed just a little bit of where her loyalties at that moment were with, and they were with Eren.
Yeah. Killing them would solve anything.
That was what gave Reiner his in to what comes next.
Yeah, she says as an Eren turns and says, who's the enemy? Yeah. And do you remember what the stallion of the scouts Commander Irwin said.
Yep,
Mhm.
I was just thinking that line.
Episodes and episodes ago.
Season 1.
What do you think the enemy is?
Yeah, at the inaugural thing or whatever. Dang.
So Reiner says, like Rachel says, he's got his little hook. Ymir, you think there's a future for this world?
She was about to answer him too, and he
he
cut
says,
her off.
It's not out of the question for you to still join our side. So now it's back to kind of an us versus them, even though we know there's kind of some more going on behind the curtain, right? Your goal is to protect Krista, he says. We can share the same goal. We want what's best for Krista too.
Yeah.
If you come with us, we might be able to do something. Here's Mafia Warrior Reiner. Your life or her life?
Yeah, this
And
is
then he's like, "Do you really think Eren can protect her
Yeah, you think this freaking crazy off the wall psycho
child?
you think he can protect you or her? Or like basically like
Is there
All
any
right.
hope for anyone?"
because he says we can't guarantee your safety. If you come with us, we can't guarantee your safety. But as for
do
Krista,
something.
we'll try. But basically, for Krista that might be a different story. Like basically, he's making this like, all right, we can guarantee someone you love their safety. We might be able to get something good for you, but if you go with him, you lose both ways. You can't guarantee her safety, and you can't guarantee your own safety. So it's your life, it's your pretty life, or it's her future. That's the option.
He's kind of like, we can offer a certain amount of protection for maybe
know what I
one.
mean.
Maybe one Krista, but I don't know if we could offer protection for both you. But this louse over here, this loser, for sure, he can't get nothing to look at him. He's weak. But you know who can? Your boys right over here, all right?
Bertholdt and Weiner.
Which is,
Bertholdt and
by the
Reiner.
way, the stupidest crap ever, because there is an entire person in this equation that no one is even consulting.
Yeah.
Krista,
yeah. What
whose
do you
side do you
want?
think she wants to be on? Friggin' Ymir.
They don't even know where she is.
Hey, your life or Krista's life? What do you want, Ymir? And Ymir's like, you can tell this is the one emotional.
And she gets
thing.
upset because she's like, "Crap, he found the chink in my armor."
Yeah, the one
She's so
emotional
pissed about
strand that she has tied to this world still. The one thing she cares about.
Her one friend.
Classic supervillain. Like, be like, we're not going after the city. We're not going after, the whatever, like, the populace. We're going after the one that you love,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, where we
Yeah.
got Mary Jane. Do what we say. Like,
yeah.
And
Who's the
unfortunately,
enemy?
Ymir's eyes go dead and Eren is on his own.
Eren says, "Who's the enemy, Ymir?" And she says, "Who knows?"
who knows?
She switched sides.
Now, here's the thing is, okay, buried in that, she's right. She's right. Because as it stands right now, we don't know.
But from what Reiner was saying just there, he's saying, do you think there's a future in this world? Because there's no future with their side. The only future is with our side.
Sure.
So who's the enemy? Who knows?
Okay, but what I'm saying is, Warrior Reiner is saying that. But is he Warrior Reiner?
But what I'm saying is,
We don't
he's
know.
not saying we as viewers don't know who the enemy is, which is true.
Yeah.
What he's saying is, Ymir is saying, who knows who the enemy is, as in, if I'm on their side, you're the enemy. And if I'm on your side, they're the enemy. Who's the enemy? Who knows?
So that's no, I agree. I'm saying that layer 2 to that is Reiner an enemy?
That's true.
Is
Only
he?
the future will tell us
This is
that.
a 7-layer dip
Yeah.
of enemy burrito, bro. It is getting thick and spicy, just like our spoilers are about to be.
Which are about to
Dude, it's
drop real hard
9:30
here.
already.
All right, so thank you for you first timers. If you're so patient as to actually watch all the way through all of these as you're watching the episodes, I understand that could be that's a commitment. So if you're actually doing that, thank you.
We
Because there's a lot of
salute
work
you.
into this. Yeah, so
Or at least I do.
we're about to jump into spoilers, but before we do, what I want you all to do is go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Tell us about how much you enjoy the show or something just tell us what you really love about my face, since you're obviously watching the show, which you can do on Facebook or YouTube. We don't broadcast live on YouTube just yet, but I'm actually working on that presently. We're going to try and broadcast to Facebook and YouTube
Hey.
Sunday nights.
Fun times.
Right around 8 p.m. Pacific time, West Coast time. You can join us. So, youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Facebook, Beyond the Basement Podcast. Email us. As I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, we really appreciate those. Email us at beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. So with that, we will see you on the other side of the spoiler wall, which we will all ascend together. in
With our
three-
ODM gear.
All in this
2.
together.
I need a 1. Give me a 1. 1. Spoilers.
No sound effects were spared in the making of this spoiler change.
Zero, dude. Zero. All right, so spoilers. There's
Oh,
quite
the
a bit
hat
that we
has
can't
become backwards.
So
quite
much.
say during this thing. Okay, first of all, okay, spoiler number one. Let's talk about the Beast Titan thing. Hanji's like, hey, go to that disabled Titan.
Yeah.
We need to find out
It's
more.
Connie's mom.
It is in fact Connie's mom. Because all Titans, I just have to say, it's like I can't say for the whole episode, like, all Titans are people. Soylent Green is people, okay?
They're all Eldians specifically.
They're all Eldians. They are the people of paradise. Paradise? There's never an E
I
at the end
believe
of
it's
it.
paradise.
I
But
want
it
to
might be
think it's paradise. Okay,
paradise
anyway.
because there isn't an E at the end. So who knows?
So Beast Titan, they say that they're Ymir says he caused the uprising. What's the phrase she uses?
Yeah.
He caused the rise of Titans within the walls.
Yes. What does that mean?
What does that mean? We still don't know how he did it. So I feel
And I'm not
like
even
that-
sure if Ymir knows how he did it.
I'm not sure how she.
Because think about what you said. Back in her time, technology still was probably just the old shot in the
But
arm.
if you
Yeah.
think about it, if you deduce, you know the whole Occam's razor thing, like there's no hole in the wall. This freaky
Right.
beast guy shows up. Suddenly, an entire town has exploded roofs out of it, but there's no bodies.
No
there's
blood.
no blood anywhere. The
Yeah.
horses are all still there,
Good point.
and there's this creepy, freaky thing that can control.
Well, she was one, and she knows that you can be one. And, well, for starters, she just knows, period, that the dumb Titans are in fact LDS.
She
just
knows
that knowledge
that
alone is enough for her to
she
be like.
was at one
she
time
didn't
herself
tell
a dumb Titan.
anyone.
She tells no one.
She told
She
no
tells no
one
one.
this.
So she knows that whole village used to be human.
yeah, and
Right.
she's making fun of freaking Connie for suspecting the truth.
Right.
So, anyway.
Which is possibly to keep him psychologically whole in that moment.
But guess what, you guys? The truth will set you free.
Well, yeah. So anyway, can I say the rest of the sentence I was trying to say earlier? Reiner, I don't remember if it's at some point in the past or if it's in the future, but he does say, I never expected all of you to be this way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does say that.
Yeah,
So-
where it's like he's getting to know them, and like that sort of sounds like,
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys were going to be good people. I didn't know I was going to like you so
yes.
much.
I wish someone
Exactly.
would told me that Eldians were actually humans with good emotions and weren't just terrible, evil, propagandized monsters.
Now, you got to wonder. I legit wonder this. No, they must know. Okay, I was going to say, I wonder if they understand the delineation between the races. But they must know, because they have entire gulags where they keep the one race,
Yeah.
the Eldians, like, oppressed in the gulags. Okay, all right, so never mind on that one. So, yeah, so it's Connie's mom. Gosh, if ever there's a day when there's like a mass redemption and these people are returned to people again, I think that'd be a really interesting thing to include in the story, and I would love for Connie's mom to be one of them. I would love for her to be the one to tell the story of how that happened, like how like the Beast Titan or whatever, how he did it, like if that's the avenue we find out how he transforms people into Titans. Also, it would mean that there's there's bound to be a bunch of Titans out there who are like Ymir, who are transformed decades, maybe even hundreds of years ago, and so they have essentially a crystal clear. They have a perfect knowledge of history. I can imagine meeting somebody
Let
who's
their
your age
memories
now.
guide you.
Yeah, right. Oh, dang. I didn't think about that. But imagine meeting somebody who's your age right now that just got unpaused from the life that they were leading in like 1841. Or so. They could tell you a lot about that period because they
And
were
how
literally
things
just there.
actually were, and not just how we surmise they were based
Yeah.
on the evidence and
It's-
writings and pottery shards that we find in the
Right.
dirt.
It's a firsthand account from the past, which you'd have a bunch of those. You'd have a bunch of firsthand accounts from the past because that's what
Mhm.
Ymir's is. She's the next episode. She's about to give a firsthand account of exactly what the world was like 70 years ago.
Yeah. The other thing too, you were talking about the gulags.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually, I think, a really good point because we know in Nazi Germany, in Poland, and some of these surrounding areas, that there was the Gestapo, who were the Jews who were on the side of the Nazis, basically. And it was their job to
they ran the ghettos. Yeah,
it was their job to rat out their own race to this other race and tell the Nazis who was trying to escape and who was what, and they were hated, and they were self-hating Jews to a degree because they hated their own people and yet tried to profit off of their own people's persecution, and there was lots of speculation about some part of them must have been mentally cracked or broken or sociopaths or something.
Kind of hate your own self that way.
And I think this is actually really a similar thing where, Reiner's been told one thing about Eldians his whole life. You guys are wicked, evil people. And he's all of a sudden discovered, wait a second, no, there's Eldians who are good. And he wants to be good, but he has this other side of him. And in order to balance out that like self-hating nature, to be able to come to grips with the atrocities he's done, the PTSD he had these split personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really a crazy thing. Think about that he actually comes from a ghetto. He actually comes from a gulag, and here's the same thing playing out.
That's a real question I've had this whole time is, we've had those 4. Where within Marleyan society exactly did they come from? Is there a Gestapo? Is there sort of though they're the minority, the oppressed minority, are they the upper class of the oppressed minority? Or like when they're given the Titan powers, are they like plucked out of like a brand from the fire type of thing? Like, or they just find somebody they think is physically capable, or do they have like...
They obviously passed a test. We saw in the season 4 trailer that they had to try to be the new warriors. They were trying to like apply.
There was some sort of a parade going on.
So what I kind of wonder, so here's my going theory, just based off of that little tidbit from the trailer. My going theory is that they basically had like a Hunger Games, right? And so here's your chance to get out of the ghetto.
Maybe save your family too,
and maybe save your family. If you perform, we'll get you there, and we'll make it happen.
Your family will get special privileges and special allowances, and they'll almost be as good as the rest of us, but still not.
At least we won't feed you to dogs and beat you. And
exactly. And so I'm saying like that would make sense, because that would be enough of an incentive for parents to then send their children on to be
right. But it's pretty obvious to me they did not know the extent of what was going to have to be done.
No way.
Because we see with Annie's dad, him saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know," like on these type of things. So I'm sure that they were just trying to do as best they can to like serve their like Marleyan masters, to like not cause any issue, to help their family. And then when they realized, you're going to turn my daughter into like a murderer.
And a cannibal.
And a cannibal.
No big deal.
No, I'm not down for that. I don't want to make it easy for you to manipulate my kids. So I think there's definitely that kind of going on as well.
There's also that creepy picture at the end of the movie or the shows, with the 3 children crying while they're eating
the
flesh off of a skeleton,
which we think is Ymir when she was.
Yeah.
And they're all royalty.
When Reiner also says, Ymir says, "Do you think killing these 2 will make any difference?" We know that she's saying there's a whole society out there of Marleyans, and they're armed and they're smart and they have technology.
These guys are just 2 tools in the system.
They're just pawns. They're just kids like us.
They'll send 2 more.
They don't even know. They don't even know the extent of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just kill them, it's just going to send more. The Beast Titan's going to keep coming. It's not like this is going to solve it. We think there's just 2 bad guys here, and that's the only thing.
She's partially wrong because she is ill-informed. I don't think she knows that there's only 9 powers, and if you were to delete 2 of them, and even if you were to just kill them straight up and send those powers would get sent randomly elsewhere, like that would still be beneficial because odds are you're not sending it to people who want to kick down the walls and murder everyone. So she doesn't know that.
Or at least be years before they can recover and send more.
Correct.
So
it wouldn't be a complete loss. Now, well, she is right about the fact that like if you kill them, like you lose out on the information part, and that she's dead on with that. Like, and Eren figures out, I was like, what I need right now is information. So
that's what I want to know from Armin. Did you get the memories of Bertholdt? Tell us, please.
Also, does he think Armin's going to need all like a bunch of training and stuff like that?
I think because he's really smart, he'll probably advance more quickly. He has more control of his emotions, which I think is a huge factor. As to why Eren can't control himself.
Whoa! What if that's that's one of the main criteria for like the child like soldier thing back in Marley is like the people are looking for like athletic and
they're
looking for a
emotionally
certain
calm.
Emotionally like because you think about it,
all of them
they're all stoic, they're all very stoic, And Reiner's kind of fatal flaw, his kind of dual personality thing would have been very hidden. It would have been something they couldn't have predicted.
Yeah.
It'd be an X factor for.
Well, and it's cause
especially
and effect.
since things like that usually don't occur until you're 20 / or you have massive trauma, like, I don't know, watching one of your comrades be eaten after you threw him to the Titan, for example.
So what's cause and effect? We thought the reason they're all stoic is because they have something to hide. Maybe the reason they're all stoic is because they were picked for their stoicism and their quietness and their kind of like
emotional control.
And that's the reason that they are.
Yeah, and then Eren just happens to be not have that qualification whatsoever, but he just happens to get the power from Dad. And
but it seems like when he harnesses his emotions, he gets this like, he's like unbeatable. Yeah,
he can certainly do more, which there's so many like non-typical things about this anime.
But that's controlling his emotions, though. He's harnessing them. That means he's putting them under some measure of control.
Like he gives over to
channeling them into a specific target.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like he's giving over to the.
He's letting the rage come out, yes, but he's pointing his rage like a laser beam at something, and which is focusing it.
That does make him strong. We don't know if that makes him good or bad.
Yeah. Right, that's true.
Okay, to change subject slightly here, did he know? Sorry. Let's see if you guys can remember, because I can't remember the episode where they finally reveal like that they were basically at fault for Marco's death. Did they show more of this flashback where Reiner's got him by the arm and stuff like that? Did they actually show him
they show them taking the ODM gear?
I know they take the ODM gear, but did we specifically see that part of Reiner basically feeding him to the Titan type of thing? Or?
I don't think they made the connection to this episode because I completely forgot they showed us that in this episode.
I forgot too. This one flew right by me.
Yeah, Warrior Reiner strong arms Marco and rips his ODM gear off with his arm behind his back while Marco is pleading and screaming for him to stop. What are you doing? And then they let him get eaten. And then everyone's freaked out. Annie is like, oh my gosh, things are real, which this is when things get real for her. You guys already caused all this stuff, and you're not weeping for the Eldians. And now that you know
when they first attacked, they had no connection to any of the people inside the walls, so it wouldn't be the same as this time.
But even so, they're people, they're human beings,
but
and
to them,
look
they
like
weren't
you.
yet.
God,
they weren't
so
yet
jacked up, man.
Because they'd been brainwashed into thinking that all the people inside the walls weren't real people. But then they spent 3 years becoming soldiers with them, and they knew that was all not true anymore. And so this attack was completely different for them.
They actually knew Marco, and I think they actually had a hand in actually killing him.
And I think that's when Annie started to go a little crazy too, because you see the crazy in her.
I think this
right
is the
before
moment.
She turns into a stone. You totally see the crazy, and Bertholdt just cries all the time.
I think this is the moment that broke all of them.
I think so too.
They're showing it to us because this is the moment that broke Reiner. Well, maybe it's not even the moment that broke Reiner.
It shattered him.
But because the comment that Ymir had just made right before the flashback is like, this isn't the first, like, this isn't, he doesn't make a whole lot of sense, or like, this isn't the first time he's been talking and not making any sense. That's her comment. And then the flashback is he just killed Marco, and he's like, why is Marco being eaten? And he's horrified.
And he's crying.
He's crying.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, I think part of the flashback is like, hey, like, it's been going on since all the way back then. It's been going on for a long time, actually. It's been going on for quite a while.
And this trauma is so great. This guilt is so much that you had to do something mentally to protect yourself.
Yeah, so that's why they show you the scene clearly. But I just kind of get this feeling. I'm like, that seems like the moment that broke all of them. Like, Bertholdt and Annie kept it together.
And Marco, he was the best of us, man.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be the chosen one.
Rip Marco. Think there's a way to bring him back somehow?
Gosh. Could there be?
He seriously, he was the best.
That's how the show ends. Marco resurrects.
Shut up, Siri. We're not talking to you.
Seriously, Siri,
That's how the show ends, though. Marco resurrects and comes down and saves us all.
And he's actually Ymir. No,
and heals Eren, heals the land, and says,
He's
my children.
Or Eren, since he possesses the founding titan, is actually the enemy of the people and has to be killed.
So I'm thinking.
I still think this. I'm
so
calling it right now.
You guys are right, and I'm gonna be so
has
upset.
To possess online powers and be done away with in order to.
So
he predicted it.
What if Mikasa has to be the one to kill him? Like that would make it even worse.
Hana said, "Isn't it true? Eren's always going away from you." That was the prediction right there, man.
Foreshadowing. Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us. We love you. You're great. We can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Go sleep in my own bed tonight.
We apologize again for not being able to get some more content out in the last couple of weeks.
Pray for Oregon.
Yeah, please. No,
seriously. The smoke. It's terrible.
An eighth of the entire state has been displaced recently, because of the fires. So anyway,
If you're wondering what it's like here, just stick your head inside of a fire pit.
Yeah. Just put your head directly over
Just
a campfire.
Smoking fire pit.
In Oregon, you do not go camping. Camping comes to you. Very good. Yeah.
Anyway,
Imagine campfire smoke smell that never goes away.
come see us, facebook.com/beyondthebasementpodcast live on Sunday nights. And don't forget to leave us that special review on iTunes. So that'll just help spread the word. And if you have friends who are into the show, recommend it. Send them along for the journey.
Please send us your memes.
Especially people who haven't watched the show before, doggone it.
Yeah, get them in. This is a
good
great way.
It's a good way to do it.
We will usher them in.
All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.